Hey, this is Andrew Lee, your admin over at the California Insurance Agents Group. And today I have a very special guest, one of my close friends in the industry. You guys may know him. He is the MC of the events. He is a just a guy that is a glue to the industry. I mean, we all love him. We all know him. Tony Merwin from Avila
Glued
Insurance is
un
on with
memento.
us.
I'm gonna write that shit down. Glued to the industry. That
Today.
is good shit. I'm gonna
Today.
write
So
that
we
down right
have
now.
we have Tony on and we're gonna get charged up today. I feel like we're gonna get charged up today. This is gonna be a very charged conversation. I'm sort of doing 75 medium. Me and Tony have done 75 hard. Um, but Tony
I've done
has
two. Did
yeah,
one really well, did one kind of shitty, I'll be honest.
yep.
I'm not
And
perfect. I'm
same
not a
here.
cyborg.
Same here. You know that I was in that last 75 hard and I just wasn't doing anything. You kicked
Yeah,
me
for
out.
about
And that
like
was
three
for
days you were in there.
but now I'm back. So I wish I was there having a beer online with Tony right now. But you know what? We got to talk about some things. We got to talk about some things. And Tony and myself as well. We and you guys, we go through things building an agency, but there's some topics that we just do not talk about. The realities
Hmm.
of actually building out a prosperous agency, right? So we're gonna break all that down. Tony, again, thanks for hopping on. You're my boy. I love you. You know that. But let's talk game and let's really educate our audience today about really the toils, the glory, the all the good and the bad of really building an agency. So again, guys, Tony Merwin, the floor is yours. Let's get it.
Number one, fuck the glory. I mean, let's just come at it hard. Fuck the glory. If you're in it for the glory, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Be in it for I mean, and I'm talking insurance specifically, but truthfully, any business that's similar in sales and service, be in it for the service. Be in it for taking care of people. The money's there. We know that. If you take care of enough people, the money's there. Jim Rohn has said it. Zig Ziglar's the key of saying that. If you help enough people get what they want and they need, you're gonna get yours. Period. And don't misconstrue that with not paying attention to your money. It just means that, like, don't do it for the glory. Do it for the money. I mean, sorry, not do it for the service.
I know what you meant. I
I
know what you
mean,
meant.
do it for the money too, but do it for the service, man, because lead with service. And this is something I learned, and just to extrapolate a little bit more, I learned that mentality from my pops. My pops was one of those dudes that was very service mentality oriented. He was a servant's mindset. Dude, I've never seen anybody help people out of their own agenda than my pops. Like, I mean, driving on the road, I remember one day we were driving to church. We were a few minutes behind on making sure that we got to church on time. And we went to one of those churches that was kind of weird. Like, they were very aggressive, if you will, on people that showed up late. The way they arranged the room so that everybody was facing the door that the late person had to enter through. So if you walked in late, the entire congregation saw that you showed up late. So I knew that showing up late was not on my dad's attitude because that was his style. But one day I remember going to church. We were running a couple minutes behind. It was, we might be late, we might not. And there was a lady stranded on the side of the road with a flat tire. I think I don't really remember. I think it was just a flat tire. I was a little dude, but he pulled off the road and helped her. And I'm not advising you to pull off the road and help strangers because there's some weird people out there, let's be
Especially in
honest.
LA.
Let's be honest. But the fact that he did that and he helped a person and we were still late to church and we all had to walk in embarrassed, he valued that over his own embarrassment of showing up late. That's pretty dope,
That
if
is
you ask
pretty dope.
me. So if
It's
you can lead in the insurance business with the servant's mentality and a heart to serve people, dude, your money is going to be compounded like you can't ever imagine.
and if
And
even
I'm
if you don't have
absolute
it,
proof of that.
even if you don't have it, delegate it, right?
100%, dude, delegate it.
If you don't like talking to seniors, get
Find
somebody
someone else
that
that
loves talking to
does.
seniors.
and
You
pay them
know?
handsomely.
So, as you guys can tell, this is obviously our California Insurance Agents Group's channel, and Tony has a thick Texas accent. Why is Tony on today on a California Insurance Agents Group? Well, Tony did some time in California,
I
right?
did do
What's up
some
with the
time, and
Sacramento days? Tell him
I
about the Sacramento
I
days.
love that you brought that up because I remember I did outside sales in Anaheim for about 7, 8 months, and then maybe another 3 years in California or in Sacramento. Sorry, all California.
916,
Um,
baby.
here's the funny thing. Now I'm talking banging on doors, just like cold calling, door knocking, door to door. This is the game. I did that for about 3.5 years in California, some in Anaheim, some in Sacramento. The most common thing I heard was, "You ain't from around here." No, they didn't say it like that. "You're not
No,
from
they don't say that.
around here, are you?" I'm like, "No,
Bro, you're
I'm not."
not
Was that
from
my
here, are
accent?
you?
And I would ask them, was it my accent that gave it away? And they said, "Actually, no, it wasn't your accent. You're too fucking polite. You say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and thank you, and all of those things." And that's how they pinpointed me from not being from California. They're like, "You're just actually too fucking nice. You're like super polite." I'm like, huh, I thought it might be my accent. But no, it wasn't.
It's a
Now, my
thing.
accent, you get a couple of beers in me, dude, I can slide right on into it when I need to. I get that Matthew McConaughey thing going on. All
Hey
right,
man,
all right, all right.
I saw your
Because,
like younger photos of you, and then you sort of did have like a little McConaughey kind of thing working for you back in, you know what I mean?
It was never permed by any means. My hair might
I'm
have been long at
I'm
some
not
point in my
accusing you of
younger
having a perm.
years, but I never rolled around without my shirt off because I'm kind of a fat guy a little bit. I mean, I'm skinny now a little
Yeah,
bit. I
you
mean, I
are.
used to be 242 fucking pounds. Now I'm 178.
Love that, man.
Fucking
I
go.
mean, I'm always trying
But
to wage war against inflammation every day, man. Hence why I'm doing this, and you know what I mean? But anyways, guys, so if you guys don't know who Tony is, a little background is the reason why we're so comfortable talking like this with each other is because, well, number one, Tony's a good friend. I mean, he's if Austin had a mascot, it's Tony Merwin, and he's again, like he said, he's nice. He's respectful, right?
I'm
Like
a nice guy.
he is very much. I love your shirt, Tony. The negotiate. What was it?
Oh,
The
the
mediator.
connector?
A
I thought you
connector.
were
There
talking
we
about
go. I
this one.
love that shirt, man. And it's just what you do, right? I mean, you are never really, in drama. You're very much Switzerland about everything. I respect that about you, man. I really love that. And, obviously, you do have a lot of ties to all so a little bit of history, obviously Tony has been in the Medicare space for a minute and he's been, in the FMO kind of level, you right with you're at
Precision?
FMO
Yeah.
with PSM
Yeah.
Precision, and now with his wife Ingracia Grace, they have opened a pretty fruitful agency, right?
Very
And with,
fruitful.
with Tony's
Come on, let's
knowledge,
be honest. It's very fruitful.
you know what I'm saying? Through
Let's not
Tony's
say,
knowledge
let's just be honest. It's very fruitful.
and Tony's knowledge and Grace's, just she's pounding the pavement. She's just going at it, right? So what a duo. But sort of what we were talking about before this was how to like the sort of the struggles of actually building out a correct, like a really good agency with a
Mm.
good base, a good solid base, and then from there just, you know, acclimating with any of the changes. But there's a lot of steps in between, and it gets difficult. And people don't talk about this. Tony, enlighten us.
They don't.
I'll add on, but
You're
enlighten us.
right.
How this all
They
goes.
don't talk about this. And there's a couple of things that is not talked about in the insurance world. Number one is how hard it is just to be an independent agent. Like I mean, it's hard to fucking be a captive agent, pardon my language. Because I mean, it's a sales job and sales is hard. You have to generate interest from people that have no interest in you at all, right? Like that is the game, period. Whether you're captive, independent, or whatever, the game is generate interest from people that ultimately have no interest in you, unless your brand is sick like mine. But that's the game. So whether you're captive or independent is that part of it is the same. The independent part is even harder because now you have to go drum up your own people that you can get to listen to you in the first place. Whereas captive, everything's kind of fed to you, right? And I'm definitely not hitting on captive. I got captive agents behind me that are killing it.
I used to be
I'm
captive
just saying
myself.
there's a difference in responsibility. The independent agent, now they have to also learn to market. So that's one of the first misconceptions because I spent 13 years in wholesale, actually closer to 15 years in total in wholesale. And I recruited independent agents, agencies, FMOs. I worked with them all. And I can't tell you the number of people, let's just call them people at this point, that said, hey, I just got my license. I want to go out and be an independent agent. And I hear Medicare is the place to be because it's booming. Oh, yeah, it's booming, baby. But do you actually have the skill set to get in front of people? Closing an app is a bullshit. I can teach a monkey how to close an application,
McDonald's order taking.
especially especially with all the tools we have now. You got Connecture, you got Sunfire, you got everything pivots right in front of you, tells you what the best plan is. Like you don't even have to really do any work, truthfully, other than building some rapport with your client and getting the data that you need to put into that platform to spit out the results for you. Wasn't like my day. I had to flip through documents and look at it. Like I had to go like, oh, what are your drugs? Hang on, let me get my pen and paper. What drugs are you taking? Oh, you're taking amlodipine? Okay. What's the milligrams on that? 10 milligrams. How many times a day are you taking? Oh, okay, once a day. All right. Is there oh, you are taking more drugs. Okay. Hydrochloric. Well, all right. Hydrocodone. I have to write all those drugs down. And then I'd have to go open the Aetna book or the Silver Script book back then. And I'd have to manually look up all those fucking drugs and math them and then write my solution down. And then I'd have to open the Humana book. And then I'd have to open the WellCare book or whatever book it was that I wanted to open and shop their drug plan or their Medicare Advantage plan with. That was the fucking old days a long time ago. Now, dude, let's be honest. I can hire an idiot to learn how to get that information, put it into Sunfire or Connecture, and spit out answers. Or even I can just send them to Medicare.gov if they don't even have those tools. And they can spit out the information, and immediately they're a fucking expert. And they can close business with that kind of a tool. That piece is amazing what it's done in the industry. Because I remember, I remember going to the Digital Frontier Workshop and I gave a talk on understanding the the progression of the business from analog to digital. Because when I grew up in the business, it was all paper. I knocked on doors, I talked to people, we wrote paper applications, we handed out paper brochures, we took receipts, we handed paper checks, like that was the game. And now, like, you guys don't have to deal with any of that bullshit, really. It's all electronic. It's all send a text email, send a text signature, an email signature. I just need your EFT info inputted on this form, and then boom, now the Medicare supplement company's drafting your gets a joke. It's so much easier, and it's easier to sell the product with all the digital tools, but it's harder to get in front of people now because there's so many more people doing it.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, the traffic war is real. I mean, especially with Medicare. I mean, I dabble in that too, but I'm like, man, this is just a lot. So the T65s is generally where I'm gonna just sort of hang out at. But
Yeah, we that's the space I live in. We
yeah,
market the T65s every day. Like that's
yep,
our whole space.
yep,
And if you do the math, like, come on, man, there's 12,000 of them every day. Turn it 65. Why are you not trying to target that group?
right,
Now, here's the bad news. That's a longer sales process. And that's, I think, why a lot of agents might shy away from that group of people because it is a longer sales process. Like we market the T65s 9 months out,
right.
sometimes 12 months out. And we're trying to be first in line and build that relationship, get them some of our edification, pardon me. Get them some of our edification as far as we have an easy guide to Medicare. We have some great assets that coach people and teach people about Medicare. So we want to get that shit in front of them early and cultivate that lead, right? So that's one of the hard parts about Medicare, especially when you're hiring agents. And you teed up this talk, and I think we might have gotten slightly derailed on it, but you teed up this talk with, or this particular segment in regards to all the bullshit people don't tell you about. And I talked about it from the independent agent, but like I've been in the business 20 years at a wholesale level, independent agent level, captive agent level. But then now I've gotten to this IMO level where I'm running my own deal again, and we're in the future, 20 years later, it's all electronic. And there's a bunch of shit that people don't tell you about because and the reason I love that you brought this up, and I apologize that we're kind of bumping around on this, but going back to the first thing I said, captive to independent. There's a ton of captive agents that think they can go independent because they know how to sell. But do they know how to market and get in front of people? That was what I was trying to illustrate earlier. But then there's another level of a guy like me that's like, I've been in the business 20 years. I've been wholesaling. I've been killing it. I know everything there is to know about Medicare. I'm a great marketer, etc. But then I want to go build an agency, and there's a whole bunch of other bullshit that nobody tells you about. And that is like, what does it actually take to get your agency set up? How do you get it licensed in non-resident states? How do you build your systems properly to accommodate multiple agents across a platform? Cybersecurity, CRM, automations, processes, like all of that stuff. Nobody talks about that bullshit because it's not fun to talk about. Yeah, granted, some people talk about, hey, get my great CRM and it's going to do all this stuff for you and you can plug your people into it. But there's a whole bunch of other shit that a lot of times people don't talk about, dude. And I've spent the last 3 weeks, about 3 weeks, cleaning up some of the foundational aspects of my agency. Because what I'm ultimately trying to do in this agency is build something that is magnificent, but is also sellable, right? Like that's the big trend in our space right now,
Right,
especially in Medicare, because it is
right,
blowing up so fast that people are like, how do I build a book in 5 years and sell it and make a bunch of money and then go hang out on the coast of Colombia or Costa Rica or wherever the fuck I want to go. I'm in that same space. And I believe that we have somewhere around 2020, 2030, 2032, somewhere right in there to get it done. 5 to 7 years. So I'm in that space and I'm in the fastest growing space of Medicare, which is the Spanish market. But there's all these little things that people just don't tell you about, man, that are challenging. I
yeah,
do not like being the IT fucking guy in my agency. I'm going to tell you right now. But I can't afford to hire an IT guy. Like my agency hasn't grown to the level where I can afford in Austin, Texas, to spend $72,000 a year to hire an internal IT guy. I don't need an internal IT guy for 40 hours a week, which means it falls on my shoulder. I'm not a fucking IT guy.
right.
I'm not. That's not my expertise, but I have to deal with it. And that's just kind of one of those things. But I did the next best thing and outsource it to a contract for hire cybersecurity group, and they helped me. So, you know, going back to like some of the things that people don't talk about, like, yeah, there's a bunch of bullshit that you have to deal with as an agent, as
All
an
right, let's
agent.
talk about the bullshit, okay? Let's really break it down, okay? Because this is a fascinating topic to me too, because I have gone through the same exact thing. Guys, so my perspective, Tony, my perspective. I'm a salesperson. Let's call a
You're a
spade a
very
spade.
good
That has
salesperson too, let's be honest.
what was that?
You're a very good salesperson too, let's
Appreciate
be
that.
honest. I've
Appreciate
heard
that.
you spit game.
I appreciate that, Tony. Well, but that was my what I'm trying to say is that was sort of my kryptonite, right?
Hmm.
So I'm going from top producer and I can talk, I can walk, I can knock, I can do all that, right? That is all good and it's already ingrained in me. I put in my 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours, whatever. But when I transitioned, especially into an LLC in a state like California, and getting all these non-resident licenses, that has stressed me out more than. And shout out to my team. If you're watching, you thank you. You know what I mean? This was a group effort. Thank goodness I had help. But what a lot of people don't know, if you're a top producer as an independent or if you're a captive top producer, whatever, and then you come out on your own, of course, yeah, you got to figure out marketing. That's the obvious, right? You got to figure out marketing. You got to get leads somehow. And from there, then you got to sell and then whatever, scale, blah, blah, this and that. But what's up with all the in betweens? Like, I need to get a business license in California, and also I need to get everything approved by DOI, get my name
Got to get registered in New
registered.
York as a business entity. Like a what? What?
I had a
That's
DBA
more
that was
money,
not
more
on that
expense.
list. Yeah, I couldn't use it after all of that.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So there's just so much more in between. So I'm just trying to let's just like let's just put it all out there. What like so for me it was learning how to become an agency owner. I mean, I've trained before, so that's fine. That I had that, but just all the BS with,
You have
contracting and
to
then just the
you have to learn to
layers.
become a business owner, man. You have to understand that there's so many avenues, for
Right.
lack of maybe a better word, of building a business that the state, like let's be honest, like ultimately it's all state regulation bullshit that you're having to deal
Right.
with, right? Whether it's just the DOI that you're dealing with,
Right.
non-resident or resident, like they're all going to have their own regulations. Right. Like I remember when I left PSM at the end of 2022 and I said, okay, I'm leaving, I'm retiring from this, I'm going to take my equity and I'm going to go run my own IMO. Like I was like, I'm going to kill it because I've already got a book of business I'm running with. I've already got a partner that's killing it and my wife. And then I can take all my 20 years of experience. But all those 20 years of experience were not involved in dealing with different state regulation, building insurance entities, getting them registered, blah, 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 building a payroll system, hiring LOAs, like none of it, like all that's outside information that I had to go deal with.
Lawyers.
I'm a fucking gangster in Medicare, but I'm not a gangster in growing a massive agency, which is what I'm now faced with that I'm doing. So I'm learning a lot of it on the way. Um, but like every state has its own fucking regulations. And give you an example, like when we first started, we were just running under a arbitrary LLC name that had nothing to do with insurance. It was just a brand that Grace and I created. And then we started it that way. But then when we realized, like, okay, we're growing and we have some new goals that we want to set to achieve some massive success. And then we started looking at some of the regulations that state departments of insurance were putting out. Florida was one of the first ones. They were like, hey, you can't use Medicare in your brand name for your agency on paper. You can DBA with it still to some extent, but you can't put it on paper and license that way. California had some new rules. New York's got their own fucking rules, right? So you have to find that weird, like if you're national, like if you're just in one state, this is not going to be an issue for you. But I'm in 30 states now. I'm basically coast to coast like butter and toast. So I had to look at how did California treat an agency with their name requirements and their licensing requirements. How does New York look at it? How does Florida look at it? And then I had to find a brand that I wouldn't have to make a ton of exceptions on. Like who would fit everybody's bullshit mold on what I can name? It's my like I should be able to name it whatever the fuck I want. Let's be honest. Pardon me,
Hey, just
but
make sure
they
I'm
don't.
gonna
They
put
put
this not
some.
for kids, by the way, on this
Yeah, you
video.
might need to
So
put this not for kids. Sorry about that. But I should be able to name whatever the fuck I want, but I can't. So I had to like go, okay, go Avila Insurance Brokers. Doesn't have the word Medicare in it. It's got the word insurance in it. That all matches, and I was able to get that shit licensed. And then so I spent pretty much all of 2023. I'm talking about 12 months
same here.
getting my original arbitrary company that I came up with a bullshit name transferred over to a proper name that was compliant, had to get it licensed across all the states I do business with, had to go back to every fucking carrier that I work with, get it all updated, get all the commissions reassigned to the new EIN number, blah, blah, blah. Like
Yeah.
that was a pain in the ass. And
It
I'm
is.
praying that if you're starting an agency, you don't go through that.
Yeah.
That
And
was
you
a
know
little
what?
bit of
I
a
tell
school
my
of hard
agents,
knocks.
yeah, I tell my agents like, hey, look, start off as a 1099, obviously, because you don't know if you're gonna last in this business. I'm just being completely real. That's how
That's
I tell my
that's
agents.
that's a hard thing to say to people, but it's true
But
because we
here's
already
that's just
know
how I roll,
92%
right?
of people fail. But
Yeah,
it's a fact.
it's a fact, and I don't sugarcoat anything. My agents know this.
Right.
And
Good.
And here's the thing. So I'm like, so don't do an LLC but if you I mean, if you feel like you're really gonna do this, then do an LLC. Like just start off with an LLC, right? But I'm a pretty good gauge of talent, and I would say, that's so then I would give, that kind of advice, but really what you want to do is start off as an LLC. Just do that from the get-go.
You
Like,
100%
oh
should,
my
because
goodness,
number
it's a
one, the tax
lot.
advantages, the succession planning, like there's a bunch of reasons by it. But you also need to make sure that your LLC is set up properly with the right information. And
Correct.
that's kind of all I'm trying to illustrate.
Right. Well, there's more to that too, right? It's not just contracting, it's not just, doing all that. You got to wear a lot of hats, right? I was never a good marketer. I'm gonna completely admit that. Like when I was just a salesperson, marketing was my albatross. Marketing was my Moby Dick to slay, right? Like that was like, and I'm still working on it. I'm still
Yeah.
working on it. So, but besides marketing, besides all the contracting and stuff, then you got to manage employees, right? You got to really feel out, where they're at. If you guys are doing any type of testing before you hire and things like that, that kind of stuff really matters, right? And holding on to employees, that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother skill set, right? You got that. And then you have also, again, if you're wearing multiple hats, you're everything, right? And so, I mean, I've learned delegation is always going to be your friend. Delegation's, if you can
100%.
afford it. If you can afford it,
100%.
if you can afford it or if you can strike a deal, that's really up to you. But as a business owner, you've got to be creative. Okay, so 1 out of 10 agents make it. How many of those agents are an agency, right? That's another 1 out of 10.
Mm,
That's another one
another
out of
level.
10. Let's call that, right? Let's call a
Sorry,
spade.
Andrew, hang on.
Yeah. So that's another level to it, right? Now, if you're like again, if you're just an agent, right, and all of a sudden you're branding, you're an LLC and all that stuff, I mean, you're gonna have to operate like a business. You have to operate like a business. You're going reverting back to the independent agent ways, then you're gonna have a problem even with culture, right? Even again with branding, especially, right? So there's so many things to do. You guys out there that can empathize, you agency owners, you guys know exactly what we're talking about, right? And especially you guys that are doing this on a high level, maybe a call center, whatever the case is. I mean, there's more restrictions, there's more laws, there's more compliance that has to do with all of that. So it's it's not an easy business. It's a simple business. All you have to really do is get a client, agree to what they're doing, and then close, right? That it's a simple business. It's just a complicated system, right? It's just like it's so simple, it's drawn out,
I
but
was kind of hoping you would just edit that part out.
no. I will maybe, I don't know. But
I
if
kind of hope
not,
you will, but that's fine if you don't. I don't really care.
I was
I
just
just
doing a
had
monologue,
some
but
bullshit out there that I heard and I had to go deal with it.
all is well. So yeah, I was just saying, there's so many other things that's involved, like with being a business owner, right? And now you're doing things that a regular salesperson is not doing. You're going out to networking events. You're doing, you're doing all this stuff, right? For free, essentially. Like
I love
sometimes I feel like it's free, right? But it's all a long game.
I really like that you bring that up because that has been my number one biggest challenge. Has been learning how to manage my time as now that I kind of sit in a seat as a business administrator,
Correct.
right? I have to oversee the marketing. Like, I mean, I'm in a very small agency. I got 4 employees. No, I got 5 employees. A bunch of external agents that I work with. Though they're pretty low maintenance, but this group, like, they need my fucking attention a lot. And then the problems that just come up, like all the bullshit that happens, like it's AEP kickoff, and I had a phone that broke, had an agent all of a sudden that couldn't even dial because their bullshit phone broke. I had to order a new phone. My fault, bad owner, didn't already have a phone backup. something that I had to learn, like always
But you
keep an
didn't
extra
know,
phone.
right? You
But I didn't
didn't
think
know
about that. I was
this.
like, oh, the phone might break. I figured phones are good. Plug them in, they work, right? But no, phones have issues from time to time. So have some extra phones on hand just in case so you don't lose productivity. Those are that like all that dumb bullshit, like that's the shit you learn on the way. But like I'm again, like I'm an expert in sales, I'm an expert in Medicare, but then there's all these other things that I got to deal with. I'm the janitor, I'm the HR person, I'm the one that opens the doors. I'm the one that locks the doors. I am, and I, dude, I said janitor. I'm gonna say it again. I'm the fucking janitor. And I kind of hope some of the people that are in
Delegate
my
that.
office, I'm kind of
Delegate
hoping some of the
that.
people in my office hear this because I am tired of being the one that changes the fucking toilet paper roll. Like, get some goddamn
Ah.
self-discipline. And if you're shitting in my bathroom and you see the toilet paper roll is empty and there's a toilet paper roll sitting next to you, put it on the goddamn holder. I trained you on that on your office orientation day.
You don't have
Period.
a
Like I'm
person
being
coming in?
serious. No, because why? Why spend money? I got nine motherfuckers in here that
What
can.
about
Why can't they change the goddamn toilet paper roll? Why do I have to hire someone to come in and dust and vacuum and change the toilet paper roll? You're telling me you don't have 37 seconds of your life, if that much, it's probably about 8 seconds, to click the button, grab the new roll, shove it on there, and lock it in and move on with your fucking life? No, you don't. But you have the time to grab the toilet paper out of the container and set it on top of the old toilet paper roll?
Tony?
Those
Hilarious
are some of the
soapbox.
issues I have. I apologize.
Hilarious soapbox.
Sorry
Hey,
about the soapbox, but that's real. Like that's the dumb bullshit I have to deal with. I have to train people how to fucking change toilet paper.
yeah. But
Like,
I
give
mean,
me a break,
besides
man.
besides that, I mean, yeah, so I mean, all that to say, right, we got to do everything, right? And Tony, my resolve again is delegation. I've learned this the hard way. I have learned this the hard way. And delegation saves your life and your
I have a
time.
huge
It
tip
might
for
even
you.
save your lifespan a couple years because of all the gray hairs and the alopecia and all you got to deal with all of this. You got to deal with all of this. So that's been my resolve. What is your resolve? Like what are you working to resolve all this?
Think about it this way. Your brain is a computer. When we go shop for computers, we're like, how much RAM does that computer have? How much random access memory? What do we understand about computers and random access memory? The more random access memory, the more RAM the computer has, the faster it runs, right? Your brain is a RAM machine. The more bullshit that is tied up in your brain, the less space you have to think about the things that you really need to run your business. This is where delegation comes in super key. How can I free up the mental capacity up here to not be thinking about that bullshit,
Right.
but now be thinking about income producing activities that actually grow my business,
Okay,
right?
let's for the
So,
agents that don't know, income producing activity is the number one thing that you should be doing at all
money
times.
maker, money maker.
Yeah,
So
right.
something that I did recently is I joined a BNI group. And I joined the BNI. Well, first I went to the BNI group with the motivation to understand like what I was getting into. But when I saw the BNI group that I was introduced to, I realized like, hey, not only is this group made of 42 professionals that I can probably use to help me get referrals, but what I immediately saw, to be honest with you, was I saw 42 professionals, many of which I could delegate some of the bullshit tasks that I don't want to deal with. And I like it even better because now I see them every week and I can hold them accountable a lot easier versus someone I see maybe once a month, once a quarter, once a year, or only talk to on the phone or on Zoom. Like these are people that I interface with on a regular basis. So I'm like, oh, let me hire my CPA through the BNI group. Let me hire my bookkeeper through the BNI group. Let me hire one of my attorneys through the BNI group. Let me milk these referral partners also But ultimately, like I saw a group of professionals that I can build my round table as an executive with, right? Because I'm running a business. I'm building my executive roundtable of people that can help me do things that I am inefficient at. Justin Brock said it best a long time ago. He's like, hey, when you're looking at your business and you're growing it and you're thinking of hiring other people, whether it be outsourced and 1099 and contractors and vendors or employees, this is what you should think of. Hire your inefficiencies first. What do you suck at? Is there a vendor
And
that
that's a
can pick it
hard
up for you for a
conversation to
small
ask yourself.
fee? It is a hard conversation because it requires you to be vulnerable and be like, I do actually suck at this. And that's
Even
okay
if
that
you
you
think you're good
suck
at
at
it.
it. Hire a fucking pro to do it for you.
Right.
Assuming that your revenue's there. Like you definitely, your revenue's got to be there to do that. But the good news is, generally, if you look at it as an investment, not an expense, investing in that person frees up the RAM in your brain so that you can be more creative in your business and grow your income because that's really what you're hired for. Like you, if you're running an agency, you kind of take over that role of now being, I'm not going to call it CEO, but I'm going to call it visionary, right? You're
The
the one
dream
that's trying to
weaver.
see into the future. Where do we want to grow this business? What are we trying to accomplish? Right? And how do I instill that in my people? And one of the best ways, dude, honestly, delegation is fucking dope. When you can find that executive roundtable, I talked about this at the very first Medicare con when it was called Medicare Gurus Mastermind in Memphis. You were there,
I was.
weren't you? Yeah, you were there. I talked about this, and I'm like, you need to build a round table of executives. Like you should imagine, even if you're an independent agent that works from home in your own home office, which is dope because that's how we built our business. We started it from home in a home office and grew it, and now we have a brick and mortar and we got 110 agents. But it takes a while. But when you're in that space, you need to start thinking, assuming you want to grow. Maybe you just want to be an independent, nothing wrong with that. I'm talking to the people that want to grow. Okay. Not hitting on the guy that just wants to make $500,000 selling insurance and go skiing in the Alps every Friday. Got no problem with you. Dope. That's why I got into the business. But I'm talking to the people that want to grow a business, a real business with multiple employees and people and moving parts and shit like that. Build a roundtable of professionals. Like imagine that in your office that you don't have yet, you have a giant conference table full of empty chairs. Who are the people that you would put in those empty chairs that would advise you to be a better business owner? Start seeking them out and hiring them and putting them in their space. That is the biggest lesson I've probably learned in growing this agency from 0 to 110 agents in the last 2 years, which still isn't massive, but it's growth, period.
Good.
Like there's people that have outdone me year over year, and I'm not arguing with that. I'm average still, be honest with you, but I'm on a very nice growth trajectory. So if you want growth, like you're going to have to understand that there are people that are way better at you than doing certain tasks. Find out which tasks take up the most of your time that you're extremely inefficient at and hire them. And just do the math. Can I afford to hire this person? Can I afford not to hire this person? That's the real question. Like,
How
can I
much is your
afford
time worth too,
not to
right?
hire this person? Right. That's a great point. Like, and if you don't know what your time is worth, it's a simple math. How many hours
Yeah.
a day do you work? How much money do you make? Divide that. That's your hourly rate. How much are you spending doing this bullshit that you
Yeah.
instead could be doing IPAs, income producing activities, and
Right.
then go hire someone to fill the gap.
Right. Hey, Tony, what a lot of people don't talk about is sacrifice. This is something that this is something that I have really not really heard too much about. Tony, you do a great job of sacrifice. I mean, sacrificing in at any capacity at the business level, right? Sacrificing meaning, you did 75 hard, Tony, obviously sacrificing leisure, right? Like having a beer, sacrificing, you can't do that. It's like having a child. You have to be sharp all the time because opportunities will come your way that you're not ready for because you haven't made these sacrifices, right? You have to make deals with yourself. You got to tell yourself, I'm gonna wake up at 5 o'clock this morning today, and I have to, so I have to go to sleep by a certain time. These kind of mental games. It's a one-on-one game. It's you versus yourself. Like that's just how I see it.
It's a game
And
of inches, about
right,
6.5, if I
you
measure,
know,
maybe 5.5,
but
is
people don't
the
talk
distance
about
between these two zers.
exactly. And people don't talk about sacrifice. Like sacrifice meaning, hey, look, like I can't, like I'm single, right? Like, but I can't go on a date that day or whatever the case is. I can't go hang out here because I got stuff to do. I got content to record or I got deals to submit or I got trainings to do, whatever the case is. But if you are not the example of sacrifice, your
Hmm.
agents are going to know, your employees are going to know, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
there's a level of sacrifice that we have to do. I mean, you really have to block out your time, your schedule. You can't work out when you want to. You have to always,
Late
sort of like,
nights.
you know what I mean? Like you just always
Think,
have to yeah, you always have to have this kind of like conversation with yourself. And so like it's just so important that we know the value of sacrifice and what we're sacrificing. If you're sacrificing and you're not having results, then don't, it's a bad
well, you
time.
might be sacrificing the wrong things, or you're just sacrificing for sacrificial stake, I guess.
Exactly,
But
for sacrificial sake.
think about
Exactly.
it like this. If you're an agency owner, right? You have people that are probably sacrificing income initially to seek opportunity, right? Most people come into insurance like it doesn't pay well on day one.
Yeah, especially
It
if you're not
doesn't.
advanced
It
premium,
pays
right?
well
Especially if you're just trying
later.
to go, yeah,
It pays well later. Like that's the whole
right.
concept of insurance. It's a compounding growth. So if
Correct.
you're hiring people and you have a brand new person that comes in your office, like I'll be vulnerable. I don't care. Come into my office. You're going to make us a minimum wage salary that's guaranteed. You're going to get a nice commission on top of it with renewals to grow. But at the base level, you're getting fucking minimum wage in my office. Period. I give a very handsome commission, but you're still getting minimum wage. So if you don't work, you're still going to be broke. That's a sacrifice for people that believe in the opportunity because they can make better than the minimum wage at McDonald's now. Like I think it pays more. I don't $14, I don't know, but like I'm paying way less than that on a salary basis because I'm looking for people that want opportunity and want growth. So they're willing to sacrifice up front. And the reason I bring that up, if you understand that your people are making a sacrifice because they believe in you to even take the opportunity, but then they see you gallivanting around and enjoying all the fruits, they're not going to have a ton of confidence in you. They'll be like, well, this dude's not sacrificing anything. I'm fucking sacrificing a ton of shit. But this dude is like gallivanting around. He makes a bunch of money. He's having fun. Like, and you flaunt that kind of shit in front of your people. Like, I mean, I'm driving an old used Jeep Cherokee and just doing my thing and running my game. I'm not trying to flaunt in front of my people or floss. Like, I'm right here with you sacrificing, bro. I'm trying to build a new business. I gave up a fat, very fat residual income to
That's a
come in here and run
sacrifice.
this business
Yeah.
because I believe that this has a much better long-term potential than what I was previously doing. I'm living off the equity income that is way less than what I was already making
Right.
because it was reduced to get my equity out and go. But I'm living off of that and I'm sacrificing all the money that I earn in my business to reinvest in my business and my people. Grace and I have been running this business for 4 years. We haven't taken a single dime out of it to appease ourselves, to pay ourselves, to enjoy it. Now, granted, we do spend money on the business for business dinners, business trips, and networking events. Those are all fun and those help us grow, but we don't take money in the business just so we can go buy some new shoes or a new car or shit like that. Like, nah, like we have a separate income that takes care of that. And I know that I can say that that's a sacrifice, but I know that there's some of you listening. I guarantee you they're like, that's not a fucking sacrifice because you already have money that helps you do that. Totally with you. But that doesn't mean that you can't learn to embrace your income and dedicate like this much has to go to the business and I have to sacrifice that and this much I live with.
Right.
That's a hard thing. So I'm not going to argue with you and say that I'm not a little bit favored in that regard because I do have some income that came from the insurance industry that is paying for my lifestyle while I can grow this business. I know a lot of you that are probably listening to this podcast don't have that.
Yeah, and
But
just yeah,
talk to
just
guys like Matt Timmon, who
oh,
grew a
impressive.
massive business, and that dude is driving around in a Toyota Corolla or a Camry or some bullshit.
I have a
He could
yeah.
buy five Lambert fucking Guineas right now, but he still drives in a Toyota Camry. Why? Because he believes in investing in his business. He believes in sacrificing those material luxuries to make sure that his business has everything it needs. He'll get his money later. He doesn't need it now, and he knows that. And
Yeah.
I'm living in that same place. Like I'm driving around a 2015 Jeep Cherokee, just like, it's fine. It runs. It's great. It's one of the best cars I've ever owned. I don't really need another car. Who fucking cares? I can use that money and keep it in my business and run. That's a sacrifice.
So as a Korean in Los Angeles, and Koreans, I'm just gonna put it out there, they're all about image, right? Look at K-pop, right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like example, right? Now, I'm in this scenario here. I'm driving a 2020 Hyundai Sonata, where I can buy whatever freaking car I want, not necessarily like to
You could, come
to
on. You
to,
could go
to
buy you a fucking Taycan. We all know.
But here's the deal. I'm in Los Angeles, and this is just a personal thing. I'm in Los Angeles where accident rates are like the highest in the country, and I've driven that probably 20,000 miles within the past 4 years, and I've gotten into three like not my fault accidents
Hmm.
in Los Angeles. So that's another reason why I have a like whatever a burner car is because one, I don't want to get into like they're gonna hit my type.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially like if you can only afford one car, like just fucking buy a burner car, just like you said, because some asshole's gonna run into it.
exactly.
Like
And
until you can afford two cars, don't buy your fat car.
and it's crazy because I'll have people that are making a lot less money than me just driving the nicest car. I'm like, that's just personally me. I'm just like, why? But anyway, just so we're
Flossing.
not,
They want
yeah,
to floss.
yeah,
They want to
exactly.
show something about themselves that other people might be impressed by.
Right.
But let's really
Exactly.
be honest, nobody fucking gives a shit.
Yeah, they care about you. Like what value you bring in. What your car's not
And
bringing any value to
if they
you.
only care about your car, they ain't any value to you.
You know what I mean? So sacrifices can come in different forms. Everybody will have their own respective sacrifices, but this is something that's not talked about. So I'm happy we talked about the subject. So hey, look, I know that you're like when you're speaking, you're always talking about relationships, right?
Mm.
And building relationships. And I mean, you have the 8 levels of remind me the 8 levels of
I believe there's eight foundational levels of
foundational
relationships.
levels.
I did a whole video with Cody and
Right,
a few others on it.
right. So why is this so, like why is this important? Like what like why are relationships so important?
Well, for me specifically, it's because I can guarantee you 100% without a doubt that I would not be sitting on this camera right now talking to you if it wasn't for relationships. And
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that at the arbitrary level, like, well, if I didn't know Andrew, then I wouldn't be sitting here. Like, no, there are relationships that I can look to in the past that have delivered me to this moment in time. And then, yes, I wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for me knowing Andrew, but it goes before that. There are relationships that if I didn't have, I wouldn't have been introduced to Andrew. There are relationships that if I wouldn't have had, I wouldn't even have this opportunity to spend time on a podcast because I'd probably sit and work in a W-2 job where I'm punched in and punched out. There are relationships that if I didn't have, I wouldn't even be an insurance agent. I mean, there are relationships that if I didn't have, I'd probably fucking still be homeless. Like that's
You
not a
homeless?
joke. Like that's real shit. Like
Oh
I
man.
remember a time in my life when I was 19, I believe, maybe 20. I was basically homeless. I was surf couching. I was couch surfing. I lived in my buddy's Suzuki Samurai. At night, I would spend the night in the back seat of a Suzuki Samurai or Jason Holifield's garage or Dave Meyer's garage. Like all my old high school buddies, I lived in their garage or in the back of his Samurai for a long period. I was going to college. I was trying to make myself something, but I
When
didn't
you
have
had the
anywhere to live,
Matthew
or I would
McConaughey
sleep.
long
Right, maybe
walks.
when I had a little more of the shit going on. And there were nights that I slept on the leeward side of a library, like rolled up in the same carpet that people would drag their feet on to clean their feet. Like that was me.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a group of friends that I had that saw me in that state, and I had a good enough relationship with them that they had the balls to basically kidnap me one day and drive me to Austin and drop me off at my parents' house. Like, get the fuck out, dude. You ain't no good in Houston. You ain't doing any good. We appreciate all the effort that you're going to. But come on, man. You're living in the back seat of my fucking Samurai. Like, you can't live there. And this group of friends found where my parents were because at that time it was kind of weird. My parents moved from Austin to Houston. I wasn't in touch with them too much, and I didn't even know where the hell they moved in Austin. I had no clue where my folks were. They found them. They kidnapped me one day, threw me in the back of his Dave's girlfriend's Jeep, drove me to Austin, kicked me out of the car, and left. They didn't even hang around. They're like, oh, let's go hang out in Austin and have some fun together. They're like, nope, get the fuck out of the car, Merwin. You're gone. Those are your parents. Go get your shit together. And then you can come back and hang out with us. Like they cared for me enough to deliver some tough love.
Yeah.
That was one of the first relationships that kind of set me on a better path in my life to help me realize that, hey, but then, years later, grows on. I get into outside sales and marketing. I go to California, meet this girl named Tiffany Lecca, work really well with her. We grow one of the massive organizations in all of grant and marketing. We get promoted number one, blah, blah, blah. A couple of more years go by. We leave that organization for our own personal reasons. She picks up the phone, calls me and says, hey, I have an opportunity for you I think you would be interested in. I'm going to set up a meeting. I want you to go meet this guy. That guy pitches me on insurance. Had I not had a good relationship with Tiffany Lecca, who believed in me as someone that would not only be attracted but could probably excel at the opportunity she wanted to present to me, which was insurance at the time. Well, I wouldn't fucking be sitting here with you.
I wouldn't have gone to
I'd probably
Austin
be
last year and had a blast visiting your
right.
office.
I mean,
And man, that was a good time. Like
100%.
I told you, Austin was on my bucket list. I've never gone there before. And every Californian is salivating to move to Austin too anyway. So this is
Well, they're
sort of
moving in droves.
a
Don't worry.
recon
They're all
mission.
moving
No,
very
I'm just kidding.
fast. They're all
I'm
moving
kidding.
very
I don't
fast,
want to live
Bubba.
there. I don't want to live there.
But the
I was
truth is,
kidding.
like, had she not introduced me, had she not been someone I could trust, right? If some other jagoff called me that I didn't trust, didn't care about, didn't have any respect for, and was like, hey, go check out this insurance opportunity, I'd have given him the finger. Because I was definitely at that time of my life, I was like, insurance? Isn't that something you buy? Is that something you sell? Like, what the fuck? Insurance? Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, I don't. But then this dude showed me his program and showed me what they were doing. I'm like, oh, people go door to door and sell cancer insurance? Well, that fucking makes sense. Cancer is a big problem. I can believe in that. My grandmother passed from cancer. I've had other people that passed from cancer. And I know how to do door to door because I've already done it for 4 years. So I'm like, let's fucking go. I'll kill
Yeah.
it. And I was wrong because I sucked at it because I didn't have the insurance vernacular. I knew how to go bang on doors. I knew how to talk to people in quick things, but I was doing sports promotions before that. That was a fucking joke. Like, who likes baseball tickets? Who wants free baseball tickets? I got free baseball tickets. Fucking easy to sell that shit door to door. But go around and talk to cancer. Go around and talk about cancer door to door. Not the most uplifting subject, right? It's not an easy sale. And I kind of sucked at it for a while, but then a relationship introduced me to another person who was the first most transparent person that in insurance is like, no, no, no. Let me show you the world of insurance. And he pulled back the veil. It was like insurance is a business opportunity. It's about contracts and relationships and perpetual money and yada yada. And I was like, oh, this sounds more of my liking.
Yeah.
20 years later, here I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, relationships, you've mastered that now, right? If that was your weakness before, I'm gonna let you know
Maybe.
you've mastered that
I don't
right
know if
now.
it's
No,
ever
I'm
a
gonna it's
weakness,
not maybe,
but
it's not maybe.
yeah,
You're a master networker. Let's just keep it real, right? Everybody loves you. You're again, I wanted to be Connector Junior. I wanted to make a shirt Connector Junior. I want to be
knocked it
like Tony
out.
Merwin. I want to stay neutral. Switzerland. I know this business can get pretty, but you got to salvage your relationships. You got to make sure that you're, in a good space where, people, everybody's watching you. Everybody's watching you, even if you don't think that they're watching you, especially if you're a person of influence, right? Like Tony is.
Absolutely.
So, that kind you do the relationships in that aspect. I mean, I really treasure that. I don't ever, I mean, anybody that knows me, I'm very, I like to, have fun. I like to kick, whatever the case is, but I'll let you know straight up, like these are my intentions. And even though it's like sort of like not cool to say these kind of things, at the very least have intentionality and like really let people know this is where you're coming from kind of thing and not to get it you know what I mean? So just have just saving relationships. I mean, that in itself is influence and income, right? Like, let's just be
Mhm.
real. Like, the relationships you have put you in scenarios to put yourself to have higher income and have more of a voice in this industry, like Tony does, right? Literally the voice
Relationships.
of the industry in terms of emceeing events, right? Like, that's my take on relationships. I mean, you have to have good relationships with people. I love people. I love people. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it's the whole reason I started this group too, and the whole reason why you're doing what you do with Invictus as well too, and all that
Mm.
stuff, right? Like, it's just relationship building and keeping that because relationships. I mean that can be your power source, right,
It's a
Tony?
huge power source. Relationships, you said it. You said it perfectly. Relationships create opportunities because relationships introduce you to something else that you weren't already introduced to. Someone, some opportunity, something, some company, some item, some tech tool, whatever it might be. Communication with other beings that are in your space, creating a relationship, whether it's a tiny relationship or it's a monster relationship, it doesn't matter. Create the connection points because connection points create other connection points. One of my favorite quotes is by Sun Tzu, who wrote Art of War. And that quote is, and I just led this off with my BNI group on Tuesday, opportunities multiply as they are seized, right? So every relationship you have to understand is another opportunity. Whether it's the first degree, second degree, third degree, this is one of the reasons I love LinkedIn because it will tell you the degrees of those connections. Is that a first degree, a second degree, a third degree connection? And you can start to kind of think about it like, okay, well, he knows this guy that knows this guy that knows this. So how can I now manipulate that to help me create the connection that I need? Um, and that's been a big part of my growth in the last few years has been developing those relationships and those interconnectivity points. I'll give you one simple example and we can move on is Cody Askins. Big Cody Askins fan. Whatever you think about him, I'm not interested in. He's one of my friends. I love him to death. And I believe he brings value. But here's what I understood. And this was back when I was in wholesale. So I was in wholesale. My whole position, my whole career, my whole job was centered around recruiting agents, finding agents and bringing them in and be like, hey, I've got some Medicare contracts and a system and a process and some knowledge. I can help you be successful in this space. Well, what does Cody have access to? Fucking thousands of insurance agents that are independent agents. Thousands of them. He has 100,000 subscribers. So I knew that in building a relationship with Cody, I could get a connection point to numerous insurance agents that were my ideal customer, my ideal prospect, right? So I looked at that connection as a way to get to this second degree that would put me in front of a bunch of people. That's the power of relationships. Make that
Absolutely.
first connection point that opens up more.
Absolutely. And you know what? And you have more fun. You have more
And
fun
you
if
do
you have
have more
good
fun because
relationships
Cody
with
just throw
people.
fat parties. Let's be honest.
I mean, I've been in one or two. No Diddy
I've
parties
been to a couple. Been to a couple.
Diddy parties? No, I'm just kidding. But
No,
yeah.
no, never. You better edit
Tony,
that shit out.
just to wrap up here with you, we could talk about this for days, not even hours. Um, but just to wrap up our topic here, what's some good closing words that you want to impart on our audience?
I'm going to talk about something that we talked about in our morning meeting today. One of the things we do here in Syndicate headquarters every Monday, every Friday, we do a personal development meeting, personal professional, right? And we talk about just development. Because one of the things we believe in here, like we're growing leaders in this office. We're not just trying to grow salespeople.
Same here.
Fucking, you can hire salespeople anywhere. But I'm looking, especially at a young stage that we're still like our business is still very much wet concrete in a lot of ways, right? We're still building that foundation. It's still very moldable and adaptable. So we need leaders. Like I don't need NPCs. They're not going to do me any favors. They might make some sales, but what I really need are leaders that can not only get good at sales, but they can help me attract new people and they can help me develop new people, right? Maybe in the future, there is a time where I'm only hiring NPCs because that's where I'm at. Not that I really want to achieve that. I really don't ever want to treat people in that fashion. So that's never really the business I'm looking for. I always want a business where it's always internal growth and people are replacing each other and duplicating, right? And everything's hired from within and people are growing up. So I always talk about that. And the big thing I talked about today that I believe is probably the number one skill or trait that every human being should have, whether you're in sales or not, and that's self-reliance. So I gave a whole talk today about self-reliance. I went a step further and I bought a whole bunch of books for the office of the essay that was written by Ralph Waldo Emerson on self-reliance, and that was a big part of what we talked about. But a big part of it was understanding, like, especially in sales, like you start over at zero every day, and the only person that's going to lift you out of zero is you. It ain't somebody else. And I'm being real. Like, even though maybe you get referrals from other people that help you prospect, they ain't lifting you out of zero. You still have to execute on that shit. But every day it starts off at zero, and the only way to get out of it is to be self-reliant and grow and do what you need to do. Right? That's one of the biggest skills, whether you're a captive agent, independent agent, business owner, I don't care. If you can learn to be self-reliant, right? I rely on my own decisions. I know that I can lead myself to the path that I need to go. That is the best skill of anybody, period. I don't care what business you're in, but definitely our business. If you cannot learn to be self-reliant, how do I learn to develop my own leads? How do I manage my own schedule? How do I maintain my own attitude? And I use it in this way. This is a super simple, dumb example of it because outside in our culture office, we have something we call the 8 steps, which are the 8 daily habits to help you be a winner. The first one is have a positive attitude. We believe that every day has to start with a positive attitude. And the reason I'm relating this back to self-reliance is because I'm sick and tired of people saying things like this. Fred makes me so angry. Fred makes me angry. No, Fred doesn't make you angry. You make yourself angry over the things Fred says. Fred has zero control over your emotions. You have all the control over your emotions. So if you're going to have a positive attitude and you're going to practice self-reliance, then yes, you have to learn that I make myself upset over things Fred says or does. And then you have to learn to relinquish that and be like, no, I get it. I'm the one that's in ownership of those emotions.
Right.
And now
And
you're
you
like,
react
oh,
to it.
Fred can do what the fuck he want, and it doesn't bug me. But it
Absolutely.
bugs me that people like pawn off their emotions and their attitude on other people like they have control over it. No, they don't. They have zero control over your positive attitude. And so I talked about that as one of the leading points in self-reliance. Like you're relying on your own attitude, your emotions, your ability, your to get yourself up, get yourself motivated and go. Are there, motivational videos you can watch that help you? Sure. But ultimately, no, it's still on you to execute
Right? Taking action. I mean, self-reliance will, again, just going back to my point of you versus you, it's a one-on-one sport, this game.
all day
This
long.
this game's a one-on-one sport. It's this. So you got to prime this for you to compete with yourself because you're your worst own enemy the way that you're gonna think. So I'm happy you brought that point up, right? Whatever, I mean, Think and Grow Rich. What you could there's so many books about this kind of stuff, right? Like, so it's really in
Plus,
between the ears. I mean, again, it's a one-on-one sport, and self-reliance solves a lot of problems. It solves laziness,
mm,
it solves issues with clients. There's a lot that it solves if you are self-reliant, and also. you're not bugging your, let's say your upline or something like that, and then now they feel, or your carrier rep, and they feel some type of way about you because you're not self-reliant. You're not, you don't have a Google mentality. You don't have a YouTube
Yeah.
mentality. You don't have a Chat GPT mentality, right?
And let's I mean to cut you off, but let's be real clear. We're not saying that you can't call your upline or your FMO and ask
Right,
them
right,
questions
right,
for
right,
help, but let's be real about the fucking questions you're asking them. Pardon my
right,
language.
right,
Are you asking them? I mean, yes, there are some dumb questions from time to time. Like, are you hassling your FMO for questions that you could easily Google? Or you could easily go to Humana's website and find the chart or the document that would answer the question for you? Are you bugging your FMO on the phone for questions that you could look up in the Medicare and You guide like that? Like some of those things are resourcefulness and self-reliant. Like I'm not saying don't reach out, but be smart about what you're reaching out to. When you're reaching out to your FMO, it should be number one, is it problem solving at the
yeah,
sales level? Like I
yeah,
have a problem, I can't get an app sold to this client because there's some issue that
right,
you can help me with. Definitely get on the phone with them,
right,
right? If you don't understand something that you can't go look up in a guide real quick, definitely bring it up to them. Do they need to help you with co-op dollars? Reach out and make those negotiations. Do you need help with contracts? Reach out and make those negotiations. But they are not there to help you answer questions that are found in the Medicare and You guide.
right,
That's bullshit. That's laziness. Don't be that
absolutely,
lazy agent because you're going to bug that guy and you're not being conducive to the relationship. You're not massaging it in the right way in your form. Show that person that you're resourceful enough to bring some answers to the equation and then maybe ask for some feedback on it. That's good. But
right.
ultimately, you should utilize your FMO to help you solve challenges that grow your business.
Right. Because you're going to be in an employee mind state if you keep doing that. If you're going to have to rely on other people, the key to being a business owner is self-reliance. That's a great topic that you brought up, Tony. And again, we could talk about this for days,
We
but
could we could probably talk about self-reliance for an hour on its own. Maybe we'll have to bring it back.
yeah. But hey, Tony, it was good having you on, man. It's always a good chat with you. Insurance, life, anything, right? It's always a good chat with you. So I appreciate you hopping on today, brother. And is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, when am I going to see you again? When are we going to go to Rainy Street and have a couple more beers?
I might have to go back to
We
Austin
have to
then.
look out for the Rainy Street Ripper, though. He's real. Like, that's a real thing in Austin right now. Like, there's like 21 fucking bodies that they found in the lake. That's a
They're
whole
saying it's
nother
more than one
episode.
person, right?
That's a possibility, too. Like, they don't know. Like, the cops keep saying, like, no, there's no evidence that there's a serial killer. But meanwhile, they got 21 dead bodies that all have the same description, and they're all found in the same stretch of lake.
So
Something's
yeah,
a
I mean
bit
that's a good
fishy.
plug for Austin. So
And
yeah,
you're
I'll come
kind of cute.
visit.
So, I mean, I don't know if I would just be wandering around Rainy Street by yourself. Like, you need to be with some people.
Right. As we were, Rainy Street was a great time.
It was a
I
good
mean,
time.
we
So,
some
yeah, that's
rooftop
when am
bars
I
and
going to
stuff.
see you again? Probably not till
Well,
next year, I assume. Is it going to be
it's gonna be
Vegas at
sometime next
Medicarians or
year.
Medicare Con, probably? Or
Yeah, any of
maybe
the
there's an event
conferences
in
really, but
February or
man, if there is a window where I can go to Austin again, of course, I love my people out there.
I
You're
want
out
to
there, Joe's
actually
out there.
I would love to come to California again and to spend more time with you. Dude, that sushi place that you took us to or recommended, you weren't with us, but you told us, like, what was that on what
Santa
was the
Monica,
Santa Monica? What was the name of that place? Where they do
Kazunori,
the fresh hand?
hand rolls,
Yeah, dude, that place. They hand roll it right in front of you. I'm not a sushi eater. Dude, it was dope. I loved
an
it. It was
experience. I mean,
so
and there's a lot more.
delicious.
So Tony, let's flip
100%.
it on you. How about you come to LA? Come visit
I'm
me.
ready. Let's come to LA. Put an event together. Put some
Boom,
people, put one of your little meetups together and tell me when and I'll come out.
boom, done.
Totally be happy, love to come out.
Awesome. Tony Merwin,
I'll bring Grace with me.
you're the man. Tony Merwin, you're the man. I appreciate you having you on here today and taking some time with me here on a pretty, solid issue a lot of people go through. So thanks again for hopping on, guys. And please, if you guys liked this, it's If you guys like this style, we'll do more of that. But if you guys like this video or it helped or it did anything for you, just please like, as our channel is growing and we definitely want to get this message out there. And also subscribe too, please, just because, again, our channel is growing. But Tony, Merwin, I want to thank you again for hopping on, and hopefully we can do this again.
Good to see you, partner.
All right, thanks. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll see you at the next one.